Where is he? Where are you? Hey, man, where's the car? You said you would send a car for me? Where's my seat? No, this is not funny. Ladies, are you kidding me? Ladies and gentlemen, I have not come here to shame this man. I have come here, he asked me to come and say some nice things about him. And he said, I have a seat there for you. Well, it's a good thing that I came earlier because there was no seat for me. That is, they said, Mr. Poitier said that I would pay them. I said, Mr. Poitier said that he had a seat for me. The fellow said, yes, but. Mr. Poitier said, you would give us the money. I said, no, Mr. Poitier invited me. Do you know what that means? You are invited too. I got no envelope, no check here, RSVP. I'm supposed to be here for free. The man said, Mr. Poitier said you would say that. When I met Sidney Poitier, I didn't know who he was because he was no one at the time. He had a funny walk, which nobody copied at the time. Everybody thought it was funny. But he became a star, and then people started walking like him, except me. And I've walked this way ever since, on purpose, to not look like Sidney. Ladies and gentlemen, I just have one thing to tell you. You will hear many, many stories about where Mr. Poitier came from, the islands, and so forth and so on, or whatever he came from. Nobody knows, nobody cares. And with his money, nobody checks for the green card. Sidney Poitier met me in 1961. He was distraught. He said, I'd like to go to college. I said, well, I know quite a few people will get you into school. I hand carried him down to Temple University, explaining that this was a friend of mine and a man who had faced a whole lot of setbacks, and I gave it to him, and they said, well, we'll let him meet the Board of Trustees. And so I brought Sidney in, and the Board of Trustees had agreed to ask Sidney 3 questions. And if he got the 3 questions correct, they would let him in. And Sidney was very thrilled and happy about it. And so they brought him in, and one of the board members said, Mr. Poitier, Sidney said yes, said, how many days of the week begin with the letter T? And Sidney said, 2, today and tomorrow. And they all conferred. And another trustee said, Mr. Poitier, how many seconds in a year? And Sidney didn't even blink an eye. He said, 12. January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd, April 2nd. So finally, the one trustee who was a philosopher said, Mr. Poitier, how many D's in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? And Sidney said, may I have some pencil and paper, please? And they said, of course. And Sidney took it, and he stood there, and sweat began to roll, and my hands were wet, and he said, may I sit down in the corner by, did you say, yeah, go ahead. How much time do it? Well, you got, and Sidney sat there for about an hour. And finally he came back and he said, gentlemen, I have your answer. The question is, how many D's in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Sidney said, the answer is 462. He said, what? He said, 462. D, 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 D. If I may, I would like to have a car to take me home now, because I have to go to New York now, and it's on you.